Hello and welcome to the June 2025 episode of the Deepdale Podcast, our magazine programme about North Norfolk. I'm Jason, and this month I continue to meet fascinating members of the North Norfolk community. First up, I chat with Nicky King, the coxswain of Wells-next-the-Sea RNLI. Then with Iona Lane, a musician inspired by the natural world, who's playing a gig at Deepdale on the 21st of June. And lastly, a local artisan and passionate wild swimmer, Rosie Newport. Iona also gave us permission to include a sample track from her new album, and we chose Big Skies, which we thought was hugely appropriate for this beautiful part of the world. As June is such a lovely month on the North Norfolk coast, hopefully you'll take inspiration from Norfolk Wildlife Trust's 30 Days Wild and fit in some wildlife enjoyment. All three of our chats this month are with people who love the landscape, so naturally the conversation turns to enjoying the space, big skies and coastline that we have in abundance here. If you are looking for reasons to visit North Norfolk, then you'll find a huge list of North Norfolk and West Norfolk events on our website, and we are constantly adding to the listings. You can also add yours. Head to deepdalecamping.co.uk/events. Enjoy the listen, and if you do, please do subscribe, it's free, and leave us a review on your favourite podcast app or directory. There's a huge back catalogue of episodes to listen to.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, fistful of samphire, sea, lavender, see you next year.
Name's Nicky King. I'm, full-time coxswain mechanic down here now. I think I've done 38 years on the crew, worked my way up. I was a fisherman before that, and I started full-time 7 years ago, I think. Basically sort of swallowed the anchor and come ashore from being fishing, but everybody else is a volunteer basically, so there's me and Martin, there's two full-timers down here. We do all the maintenance, cleaning, polishing, paperwork, and let's be honest, we all know there's more and more of that nowadays. But everyone else is a volunteer, so I was for a lot of years before this. You just get used to having a pager on your belt.
How many trained crew are connected with the boat?
We got 23, 24 crew who are boats crew. We then got another 8, 9 actually on shore crew, some of which don't want to go on the boat. They like sitting under trees. That's the only cure for seasickness, isn't it? Sit under a tree.
That is very true.
So there's a few of them do that. So you've got to have a tractor driver. Basically, launch a big boat, you've got to have a tractor driver and a head launcher. And then you've got to have a coxswain and a mechanic and 4 or 5 crew.
Yeah.
So we got 3 coxswains, 5 mechanics, 4 tractor drivers for the sloughs, 4 head launchers, coming up 5. Coxswains, we don't work a router as such, but I'm we've got first coxswain, second coxswain, deputy second coxswain, so you need a slight pecking order, so if there's 2 of you here, that isn't necessarily the one who can shout the loudest to get the troops in order, so to speak. But coxswains tend to work among themselves. I mean, if I want to pop out of town for a couple of 3 hours, I'll ring one of the other ones up.
Yeah.
I'll wait about for the next few hours, I need to pop out. The normal reply is, do you want me to be about? which is very handy at Christmas time. I managed to avoid Christmas shopping now for 20 odd years. Yeah, that's got its advantages at times, but I mean basically you've more or less realistically got to be within 10 minutes of the station, so what we're looking at, possibly Holcombe one way, Stiffkey the other.
Yeah.
You've then got to have, like I say, a mechanic, so the mechanics tend to work among themselves. Having said that, all three Coxswains are also passed out as mechanics. We mix and match a little bit, so we tend to have a ring round. Tractor drivers, well, like I said, there's 4 of them, well, the Slayers drivers, for the tractor for the big boat. They got their own little group. You know one of them will turn up, but you're not quite sure necessarily which one that'll be.
Yeah.
Same with the head launchers. The problem we're getting now is daytime cover. You know, you more or less got to live in Wells to be on the crew realistically, or like I said, Holcombe maybe. Stiffkey at a push, but you're getting the youngsters joining up, coming in here, and of course they get a little bit older. Decide they want to set up home with their partner, and they can't afford to stay in the town.
No.
So they got to move inland, and
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem. I mean, let's be honest, that's virtually every lifeboat station by definition. Most of them are in a pretty little seaside town. Same problem all the way around the country.
Yeah, because the local population is reducing all the time, unfortunately, and and so therefore you've got a much smaller pool to be able to take part. And I'm glad there's still people who are passionate about it. But as you say, if you're a youngster and you get involved with this, the chances of finding a job that's going to keep you in the small town is pretty slim, isn't it? Really?
Well, that is, and I mean, especially with the house there again, with the house prices. Most of the jobs what are in the little local towns are probably minimum wage. Well, they're probably working in the fish and chip shop as a prime example, serving in a pub. You ain't going to get a mortgage on that at the prices we are now. But like I said, that ain't just here. That's it. That's the whole way round the coast. Seems to me.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, we're getting further and we're getting older.
Yeah. Which is going to make it's going to make it difficult. It difficult. What model of boat is this, and kind of tell me a bit about the boat itself?
Well, she's a Shannon class lifeboat. This one is. That's the smallest all-weather lifeboat the RNLI run. Main reason that's smaller is obviously it's got fit on a tractor and trailer, for want of a better description. The Slayers rig sounds wonderful until you know it stands for Shannon Launch and Recovery System. So that's a tractor and trailer in layman's terms. So obviously that's got to be, well, I say light. The boat itself's got about 20 tonne, but she's got 1,300 horsepower in her. Twin water jets, twin engine, twin water jets. And she'll, downhill with the wind behind it, you can probably push the best part of 30 knots out on her. But design speed is 25 knots in, that's an all-weather boat, that's what it says on the tin.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because the one at Cromer, of course, is on a ramp without having to have the tractor and trailer, so I'm assuming it's a bigger boat.
Yeah, Shannon class is 13 metres long, whereas I think the Tamar is 15. So that's a bigger boat.
Yeah.
It goes with the same amount of crew. Can it take any more weather?
And you were saying before we put the microphone on, that so you normally have a crew of about 6 on this boat?
Yeah, we generally go with 6. To put it bluntly, if that's a rough night, there's 6 seats. So you want to be in a seat. All the all-weather boats are self-righting. Basically, if they go upside down, they come back up. And how they do that is by basically the air in the wheelhouse. All the heavy stuff, engines, fuel tanks, etc., is all in the bottom of the boat, and all the light stuff is at the top. Well, apart from some of the crew, obviously, but but that works with the air in the wheelhouse. So if you've got the wheelhouse door open, that ain't going to work too well. But that's that can be interesting on a rough one, because that's people pay good money to go up and down like that at theme parks. But that's I've been at sea since I was 12. I don't know any different. But that can be a bit of an eye-opener to some of the people, and there again we're losing. When I joined, virtually the entire crew were fishermen or boat related. Now there's less fishermen, there's less boaty jobs, so probably 80% of our crew haven't got a maritime background as such.
Yeah.
So we can train them up. That just take a little bit longer. Obviously, using a prime example, I mean, you get anyone who's been going to sea for a while know how to tie knots. You get someone who's, well, we'll say worked in an office, the only knot they probably know is how to tie the shoelaces. So, you know, but we can get there, and we have, and we do. And I mean, we have got a few. We've got a couple of 3 on the crew who are actually retired to Wells and decided, well, they're still young enough to come down here. They must have earned more than I did if they could retire that soon. So they joined up the crew, and I mean, they're ideal.
Yeah.
But as I say, there again, you've got the other problem with running out of locals, or local people. A lot of them also are working out of town. So daytime cover is the biggest problem. You get a shout night time or weekends, no problem. But daytime, and I mean, bear in mind, if we got 6 crew on the big boat, we sometimes get shouts where both boats go at the same time. You've got another 3 on the inshore, that's 9 crew. Well, we're nearly 50% there, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're always managed up. But I mean, sometimes you're thinking to yourself, I hope he turn up in a minute.
And in terms of this boat, so you've got 6 seats. How many casualties could you pick up?
That varies a lot. I mean, there's a survivor's cabin down the front for that. Rarely once in a few years, really rough one. There's seating down there for 6 people, seat belts, the lot. Yet again, the idea of the casualties going down low is back to that self-righting thing. But that's much the same as we had on the Mersey, the old boat. But there's different classes. I think that they're saying that's off the top of my head, so don't quote me on this exactly. I'm sure there'll be an anorak out there, someone will know the exact answer. That's round about 15 people with full self-righting capability. Then that gets to, I think that's about 30 odd, and she's still stable.
Yep.
But self-righting is a little bit of a, well, chances are you're going to have a few out on deck by this stage.
Yeah.
And I think they had that she'll carry up to about 60.
Yeah, you don't really want to be thinking about self-righting if you've got that many people on board, do you? Really?
No, because that's like I said, I get a bit wet at times, but that's the theory behind it. But I mean, the majority of boats we go to, generally the smaller stuff off here. I mean, that's why some of the bigger ports have got the bigger boats, because they got ferries running out, so they got that enhanced survivor capacity. But then realistically, if you went after a ferry off here and I took to the life raft, well, you leave them in the life raft and just play the sheepdog and round them up, so to speak.
Yeah. And did you get called out for the collision in the North Sea?
No, we didn't get that one. We was on standby. We was going to be the next boat out.
Yeah.
They was, I think that was about an extra 10 mile to us. They sent Skegness, and basically the endurance of these things is about 12 hours flat out with the fuel we carry. But obviously a lot of the time you're not flat out. So I mean, we've been at sea, well, I think my longest one's about 26 hours on one show.
Wow.
Not on this boat, but that was on the old one, which was very similar in, well, smaller and same size but slower. So having said that, most of them are searching, and you're not searching at full speed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know, range is a bit of an awkward one to say. Well, it's a bit like your car, and if you boot it flat out, you ain't gonna get as far as ticking along at, well, what's it, 56 mile an hour according to all the spec.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's the nice thing about it. If I say nice, appeals to my sense of humour. You never know what you're going to get, if anything. I mean, you can go months without a shout at all for the big boat, and you can get to in one day. Yeah. And some of the ones that you think are going to be a straightforward, well, AA job, shall we say, go out, find said yacht, tow them in. No, it's an easy one. Turns into some, well, you know, didn't see that coming. And some of the others you think, oh, this is going to be interesting. You just never know. Yeah. And that's, like I say, fun's possibly the wrong word, but is it? Because if you enjoy what you're doing. But yeah, that's just the unpredictability of it. I mean, the page could go off in the next 5 seconds and we'll start running around like demented whatevers. But then again, that could be. I mean, the lads had a shout yesterday, but this was out on a shout yesterday.
Right.
Brought a yacht in, rudder had failed, so no steering. But then again, the CAA job, there was a decent breeze off there yesterday, so there was enough there to get the decks wet, shall we say, and the wheelhouse windows, which will be the next job in a few minutes. Will be push around and start washing it down again.
Got you. Yeah.
The ones who had to put up with the most in this whole job are the wives, you know. Because the amount of times I've left mine sitting at a table when we've been out for a meal, jumped my wallet on the table and said, see you later.
Yeah.
Technology's moved on. The one thing that hasn't moved on, that hasn't changed, is that horrible wet wrinkly stuff out there. That's still the same as it was when I was going out there pulling on 14 oars with a scrap of sail.
Yeah.
You know, yes, they was using horses to launch. All right, we got a state-of-the-art tractor or machine, but they're still basically doing the same thing.
Yeah. And the whole thing is about saving lives at sea, basically. So it's and it's volunteers putting themselves in harm's way for others, which is I just find truly amazing. It's the one thing I've always been amazed about in Britain is the fact that we have an incredibly successful RNLI scheme supplying amazing service, and it's a charity rather than being publicly owned, which is just publicly managed, which is just incredible. And no doubt it probably works far more efficiently because it is a charity. I do find it fascinating.
Yeah, that is a charity. I mean, when you think about what that cost to run it, the generosity of, well, I'd say the British public, the public, never ceased to amaze me, really, because you actually sit down and think about it and you think, how the heck can this work?
Yeah.
But, well, it does, and it works well most of the time. And I mean, when you think about what it's actually costing to run, I mean, what's the lifeboat stations all around the country, I mean, you're standing here looking at a boat here, what costs, well, 2.3 million quid for the boat.
Yeah. That tractor is seriously a serious piece of kit as well.
Yeah, well, the tractor, that's over $1 million. So, I mean, that's the thing is, though, the boats and the tractors and everything are all now built in-house. Yeah. Whereas years ago they used to, find a local boat yard and, each area had its local boat yards, used to do all the maintenance, even build the boats. And there again, less boat yards. So they decided, well, hang on a minute, let's bring this in-house. And I saved them money. And they guaranteed what they're going to get. We're in charge of our own destiny, so to speak. Yeah, and
absolutely,
and that seems to be working fine. I'm in Shannon class now, there's 54, 55 of them. Yeah. The majority of them have been built at pool, in-house, and whacking out 4 a year. I mean, if you just want to sit back and think of that, just 4 new boats a year, if they're costing $2 million each, well...
Yeah, the time and energy of that is quite incredible, isn't it, really?
It is. But then, I mean, our workhorse is the OLB, the D-class, which is across the way, they're inflatable. Which normally goes with 3 crew. Yet again...
And that's what they describe as the inshore lifeboat.
Yeah, basically that's an inshore lifeboat, yeah. Main job for that round here is probably picking people up off the sands who didn't quite get the tide times right, or didn't realise some of the fun you can have on our beaches. But that's so you then got to have a helm on the OLB. Well, that's got 5-6 helms, so they tend to work among themselves. So there's a heck of a lot going on behind the scenes that most people don't even get. You then come into, okay, we got the shop in the station now, so I think there's a team of about 35-40 volunteers man that shop. You then got the visits team who do the guided tours, etc., and people book in 7, 8, 9 of them. Yeah. We then got the backroom staff, launch authorities, etc., so you're probably 80, 90 people involved in the run of this station. Yeah. And they're all volunteers.
Amazing, isn't it?
So, okay, about you being a volunteer, you can put in as much time or not as you got, but if you're on the boat's crew, the launching crew, you got a little bit more of a commitment to keep your skill level up. But when that page you go off at 3 o'clock in the morning, muscle memory is a very handy thing to have.
This is the inshore lifeboat, and what class is this one?
This one's a D class, which is the smallest, inshore one. There's an intermediate one called an Atlantic, which they got at Hunstanton and Sheringham. This is ideal for what we need, because they can sneak up the creeks in the marshes. If we've got people cut off or lost or injured or whatever, we do a fair bit of them as well. Basically that'll float in about, out near enough float on wet grass, I think. So, I mean, that'll do 25 knots.
Yeah.
So we've got the speed, 3 crew, we've got full, we're carrying first aid kits on board, there's oxygen on board, all that sort of stuff. We've got a bit more, obviously, on the big boats, we've got more room, but, it's a well-equipped little boat. That's surprising what they can do.
You're not carrying medics and stuff with you yet?
No, we got 10 of the crew are sort of trained up to, High St John's ambulance standard is roughly CAS care. We sort of trained, to say, we carry oxygen, internox, splints. But we are lucky because we've got 2 lads on the crew who actually are paramedics for the day job. So, getting back to picking that crew again.
Yeah.
If you've got a medical evacuation job, you're hoping one or preferably both of them will go come running in through the door.
Yes, yeah.
That's I always said I'm far better at driving the boat than I am driving the bandage.
So you were saying about the fact that you can do tours.
What we try and do, if we're doing tours, we got a visits team who basically book that. The shop at the moment, off season, shall we say, is open, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Volunteers available, which is normally they work at sort of 10ish till 4ish. Winter months they might go 11 till 3. Yeah, I mean, you can come in and see the boat from the Verne Gallery when the shop's open.
Got you.
And if you want a tour, if there's a few of you coming in there, we'll get in touch ahead. There's all the information's on our website.
The website's brilliant, and you've got loads of sea safety stuff on there as well, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to get across, because obviously, as I say, that D class, that is the workhorse of the RNLI anyway. Majority of its jobs is picking people up, cut off with a tide, which basically, had they known and headed for home half an hour sooner when the siren went off on the beach, they'd have, we could have carried on digging the garden or cutting the lawn, and they wouldn't have been standing there going slightly embarrassed. But then, hey, we all, make mistakes. As I said to you earlier, if I go to London to get on the underground, I need to look at the map.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what the tide is doing here without even looking at the tide table. But that's what you know. People make mistakes. We don't judge them. We just go and pick them up. They don't get charged. If they want to make a donation, that's up to them. We're a charity after all. But, that's... The thing is, if you're in trouble, hit the 39s and ask for the Coast Guard, because we actually operate, the Coast Guard then call us out. Yeah. That's how it actually works. So hit the 39s and call the Coast Guard. They're used to it. That's what they're there for. Yeah. So that's, but as I say, a little bit of basic homework, look at the tide times, etc. And that water cutting in, I'm talking about Wells now, we're cutting behind them sandbanks. You've got much the same at Branks to Staith with the wreck. That tide, when that coming on a big tide, is coming in quick.
It is.
If that's waist deep, that'll probably knock you off your feet.
Yeah.
Stay where you are, stay on the dry bit, and get your phone out of the pocket and stop looking at Tic Tac and ring the bloody Coast Guard.
Yeah. Raise the alarm as soon as you realise there's something not quite right.
Yeah. I mean, we get called out, and by the time we actually get down there, they might have managed to wade ashore, and if we do, great. But I'd rather be called out half a dozen times when we wouldn't need it than not be called out the one time we were.
How much do you guys get involved with sea safety stuff?
To be honest, float the live's a good one. Lay flat on your back, spread your arms, spread your legs, stick your lugs in the water, which is the worst bit because I don't like getting water in my ears, and you'll float. I'm speaking as a non-swimmer.
Yeah, I can't believe there are still fishermen that don't swim, but it doesn't surprise me when they are.
No, I can't swim. But then again, I've always had a boat, so.
And when you're on the RNLI boat, quite a lot of safety kit too.
Well, that's it. I mean, again, basic stuff really, innit? Wear a life jacket, I mean, the water safety lot will tell you if you're going out walking, take a main to call them for help. I think they mean take your mobile phone with you. The only problem with them, occasionally, of course, is you know when the battery goes flat on your mobile phone, don't you?
And also the somewhat dodgy signal we occasionally get here in Norfolk. But hey, there you go.
Well, you can't have everything. You can't have all this peace and tranquility and spoil it by putting bloody great aerials up everywhere, can you? Yeah, I mean, the other handy thing, what relatively new, but that is handy, especially if you're out in the marshes, is that What 3 Words app.
Yeah, because you can give a very specific location of exactly where you are.
That is good. I mean, at the end of the day, you're giving that a Latin long, but in an easier format, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've actually had people lost out in the marshes in fog. We've actually been talking to the Coast Guard on a mobile phone. They've actually downloaded the app whilst they're there, told us where they are, and 10 minutes later you go, oh, there you are. That is good. That is worth doing. And I mean, that don't just apply for down on the coast. That's hill walking or anything, really.
It's amazing because when you're standing up on the balcony looking out across Holcombe and Wells Beach from here, and you're looking at how beautifully clear it is on a day like the today, people just can't believe when the fog rolls in, you cannot see anything, and you're completely disorientated, aren't you? Completely.
Yep, you certainly are. That's a job now which way's up, let alone north and south.
Yeah.
But that is a strange environment. A lot of fluid, dynamic and frequently changing. I think it's the technical term way of putting it, but now that's, you know, Jason, you grew up here same as I did. We don't know the difference. Stick us in the middle of London and see how we get on.
Yeah.
All them people and stuff, but that's, and that is, but that's, and I mean, the problem is when the tides go out here, the tides go out. Yeah. And I mean, I always say it's Wells-next-the-Sea when the tide's in, and Wells are rather a long way from the sea when that's out.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said, Brancaster.
Yeah.
Just the same. We got miles and miles of salt marsh all the way along here. And that's what, I know that's what people come here for, but perfectly safe if you're sensible. But number one trick, look up the tide times, please.
If you are wanting to look up the tide times, we have them on our website. We put them out on our social media. Wells RNLI have them on their website. Lots of local websites have them on, and there's lots of resources online where you can look them up. So please do check the tide times. It is incredibly useful, even if it's just so that you don't go and put salt water through your engine while you're driving down the beach to Brancaster, because that happens a lot. Basic things like that, just checking. When you step onto Wells or Holcombe Beach and the tide's out, you'll have hundreds of miles of sand, and when the tide's in, you can, on a big tide, you can have, you know, just a few yards. It's quite incredible, the difference.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, there is actually, if they're interested on our website, there is actually a time-lapse video of the tide coming in at Wells, because we got our water safety officer decided to walk out there one day and make a little video, and well, basically got herself cut off. Admittedly, wearing a dry suit and a life jacket and a mobile phone and everything else, and we knew she was doing it and sat here and then filmed going to pick her up. Well, stimulated rescue, shall we say, or whatever you want to call it. And she actually made an interesting remark that we knew she was there, she knew we was coming to get her, and she still felt uncomfortable when that tide surrounded her.
Yeah.
And she was there deliberately to do it, and she felt uncomfortable.
Well, thank you so much for chatting to me. Really, really kind. As you say, it's sort of one of those things. I'm really glad that the RNLI is here. It's not disappointing when you don't get called out, but I am so glad you are here, and the difference it makes is amazing. Long may the partnership of the RNLI and the local community continue, and I just hope that businesses continue to support what you guys do, because you're just such an important part of the offering of this beautiful part of the world. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Yeah, and carry on renting them bits of grass out for them tents.
I'm chatting with Iona Lane, who is a wonderfully talented musician that we are very much looking forward to inviting back to Deepdale, or hosting back at Deepdale on the 21st of June for her very own gig in our brick barn. And It's really lovely to have her back on the podcast. She joined me back in May 2023, which we were both saying feels like yesterday, but also a very long time ago. That was just before she played a gig for us in the Brick Barn last time. So it's very lovely to have you with me again, Iona. Thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jason. Lovely to chat to you.
And we were just saying, like, when we promoted you in May 2023, you were Leeds based, and then when we launched the sort of program for the year for this year, you were Glasgow based, and then now you're a Highlands based musician. So, kind of what's drawn you further north?
Yeah, so I think I moved to Glasgow towards the end of 2022 actually, but there's always I feel like a slight delay with these things with bookings and getting bio sorted, and I've always sort of been drawn up to the Highlands, I guess. My parents are both geologists, so they spent a lot of time up in the Highlands. My mum is fascinated by the rocks, specifically on the Isle of Mull. Yeah, that means as we spent a lot of time up there when I was growing up. Yeah, I've just been slowly moving further in that direction, I guess. So yeah, I'm based up in Noida in the Highlands these days, which is a great fun and a really lovely place to be.
And I know an awful lot of people who both listen to the podcast and are coming to the gig later this month will know and love your music. But for those who kind of are new to your music, how would you, where does it sit in the genre world, as people love to put it, and what do you feel is the sort of essence of what you sing and play about?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm a folky singer-songwriter, and that's sort of where I sit. Last month in May, I released my new album, Swilky, and I suppose thematically for that album, there's a strong focus on ecology, conservation, islands, and folklore, and kind of all how all those things sort of intermingle. So yeah, there's a lot of nature references and talking about being in the natural world, and reflections on how we can look after the planet that we live on.
Yeah, that fits beautifully with the 30 Days Wild that is currently ongoing in June with the wildlife trusts who are actively promoting people to get out and explore the countryside. Is Swilky based on any stories or thing, or is it a name that sort of come from other things?
Yeah, so as in the name Swilky, or
Yeah.
yeah, so the name Swilky came from if you go to the very north coast of mainland Scotland, to John O'Groats, and you look out over the Pentland Firth there, a couple of kilometres from the shore, you have the island of Stroma. Orkney's sort of a haze in the distance, and off the north end of Stroma, there's a whirlpool called the Swilky, and this is where you have the convergence of 27 different tides. And it's thought
27 different tides.
27
Oh my
different
word.
tides. And it's thought that in folklore, this is the point where the sea witch churns in the perfect amount of salt into our oceans to maintain balance. When I really liked that, and I suppose that's quite kind of maybe a summary of the whole sort of concept of the album. Sort of utilizing bits of folklore to help give us a maybe a modern day context on the places that we have and our wild places.
Can I ask, because I've noticed, I notice it every time I look at the poster, but the picture that you gave us to kind of put on the poster is you with a sort of a rock behind you, and then to the side is the sea and what looks like, sort of the fins of some sort of reptilian creature. Is that kind of part of the folklore, or is that something really different?
Yeah, so the picture was taken by Malin Lewis, who co-wrote a lot of the music with me for the album. We took that on the Isle of Canna, off the west coast, and I then worked with a lino print artist called Morven Graham, who's based in Edinburgh, just outside of Edinburgh, and they basically created a series of prints, one print per song for the album. And yeah, they were sort of incorporated into that album artwork. And I'm also releasing a songbook, which has got all the lyrics and stories behind the songs, and also all of Morven's prints in there as well. So it's all sort of tied in, and the waves, I guess, yeah, the spines that you see on the bottom left of that image are taken from one of the songs, basically.
Okay, so they're waves rather than spines.
Yeah, I think they're sort of the spines off the back of like a sea monster kind of creature, but they're sort of double down as looking as waves as well.
Got you. Yeah, yeah. No, it looks
Um,
like there's sort of something kind of creeping up behind you.
yeah, that's kind of the vibe we were going for. So
Excellent. And you were saying you've just been on tour in Germany, and Denmark and the Netherlands.
yes, yeah, I was over there for 3.5 weeks doing a series of shows, which was really lovely. And I was joined by Eleanor Dunstan on the Clarsac, who's just an amazing human, and yeah, really, really special to get to collaborate with her on those shows. So yeah, it was great fun. We did lots of traveling, drank lots of really good beer, and went swimming in lots of lakes. It was great, and we played some gigs. It was lush.
Is music full time now, or have you got to fit it in around a real job or an alternative job?
Yeah, it pretty much is full time. I do back home in Noida. I do some shifts in the Old Forge pub, which is the UK's most remote pub, and yeah, it's great. It's great fun. It's really lovely. I love working in the pub. So that sort of I do a bit of that when I'm at home, but I'm pretty much full time. So
And do they get you playing in the pub as well?
oh yes, yeah, it's usually on the cards. It's great. They have lots of sessions in the pub, particularly over the summer. Yeah, so it's lovely to be a part of them. There's a really lovely bunch of musicians there. There's only about 120 folk in the community, but there's a fair chunk of them that are good at playing tunes. So we have a good laugh.
Fantastic. That's just wonderful. In one of those pubs that sort of, it's like a sort of a glowing warmth, in the midst of kind of the less salubrious weather. You kind of walking through and you can see this what looks like a very welcoming, warm sort of a building somewhere in the distance.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a bit of a hub, particularly over the winter as well. But it's also owned by the community, which is amazing. So it's a
Nice. Yeah.
community-owned pub, yeah, which is great. It's open all year round, so even in the winter when there's no tourists, it's available for locals. So yeah, it's great. It's a really cool place.
Nice. I like it. Well, we are so looking forward to you playing at Deepdale. It's going to be lovely to welcome you back. And you're bringing the album with you. Is it all ready to purchase so people can get a copy?
Yes. Yeah, I'll have CDs and vinyl and limited edition vinyl and a songbook, which I'm just about to announce actually. They arrived yesterday. So yeah, there'll be copies of everything, don't you worry.
Is it just you this gig? Are there special guests?
Yeah, I'm joined by Louis Campbell on guitar and banjo. He's an absolutely amazing human and a force of a musician. I was really lucky to have him play on the album. So yeah, he's bringing various guitars and bits and banjos and lots of things. Basically, it's going to be really
Things
exciting.
that make
But
lovely music.
yeah, he's really awesome. He plays in an amazing duo with Owen Spafford, which is really beautiful. And he also plays with Sam Sweeney and Sam Lee quite a lot. So yeah, it's a real treat to have him for this show. So it's going to be special.
Fantastic. Well, that's lovely. Well, we really look forward to you being with us. 21st of June. Live music starts at 7:30. Gates open at 7 p.m. Tickets are selling really well, but it isn't too late to join us if you do fancy it. Thank you so much, Iona.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
whim of the wind below high tide, a narrowing of sea and sky, of sea and sky. Star Point shows the way to go to vanishing isles, forever unknown, forever unknown. Under big skies, oh, you'll never see this world again. 9 miles of shore swept up as kitty wakes, or sea pinks in a storm, or sea...
So I'm chatting on Zoom. I am chatting to a great friend of mine called Rosie, who I've known, well, since we were about 16, I think, probably. And
just a couple of years ago,
just
really.
a couple of years, yeah. We're only in our early 20s, honest gov. And she started a company not very long ago called the Accidental Wonky Bag Company. I got through it without falling over the name. Yay! And she is based in Burnham Overy, making wonky bags and other interesting items. And she's coming to Dalegate as a pop-up shop later in the year. I think it's in August, so latter part of August. She's sitting, I'm very jealous, she's sitting in the sunshine outside the boathouse at Overy Staithe. How are you doing? Welcome to the Deepdale Podcast.
Thank you very much, Jason. Yes, I'm sitting at my office bench, and it's the most wonderful view over Burnham Overy Harbour, and the tide's out, and there's a little oyster catcher just strolling along the water's edge, just picking up little treats, and it's all very peaceful. There's a couple of dogs swimming, and yeah, it's just lovely. Mustn't grumble, really. Mustn't grumble.
It is a beautiful, beautiful place. Burnham Overy is gorgeous. So tell me how the Accidental Wonky Bag Company come about. Where did the idea come from?
So, well, as it sounds, it really is. It was an accidental company. I never intended to start a company. I was teaching, and we just had lockdown, and we were coming out of lockdown, and the three of us in our family, we'd all got dry robes, and they're very, very big, bulky coats that us outdoor swimmers need when we come out of swimming in the middle of winter. And when you put them in the back of the car, they just take up the entire back of the car. And I was a bit fed up with this, so I thought, right, I'm going to make a bag, and I'm going to make a bag like a stuff sack that you put your sleeping bags in to compress them down. Thought, what material have I got kicking around? And there were some old sails. So I repurposed these old dinghy sails into 3 stuff sacks. And then I posted them on the Outdoor Swimming Society Facebook page. And just said, look what I've made. And I had over 1,000 people comment on it and put in requests to see whether I would actually make them one. So I went, yeah, why not? And so that summer, I made over 400 or 500 bags. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. People just kept going, can you make me a bag? Can you put number 15 on it? Can you put a number 7 on it? A red 7? Can I have a blue 6? And these requests just kept coming and coming and coming, and people kept coming back and asking for reorders. And I had so many return customers. It was just lovely. And it turns out that people like wonky bags that are made from old sails are just the most joyous people in the whole world. And then people kept asking for slightly different designs. Somebody said, could you do one with a zip down the middle? Could you make a barrel bag? Could you make a tote bag? And so my little business started to grow. And then eventually, sort of 9 months ago, I took the step of ditching teaching and going full time, making wonderfully wonky bags. And the business has grown, and I have recycled. I've lost count of the number of dinghy sails that I've recycled. These dinghy sails would otherwise just go into landfill, where they would just rot down and leave microplastics. and are disastrous to the environment, or they just stay in the back of people's garden sheds and garages, doing nothing. And it turns out that people want to get rid of their old dinghy sails. So I am inundated with old sails from all over the place. And it's so joyous. It's such a joyous way to make a living.
And then almost by accident, you ended up with the options to take the sort of the loft space at the Burnham Overy boathouse, which is fantastic.
So what happened there was my daughter, she has been interested in boat building and all things nautical. When she was 12, a local sailmaker and designer and engineer, he started teaching Holly and her friend how to repair dinghy sails. And Holly just really was in her element repairing dinghy sails. And the wonderful people, the trust that owned the boathouse at Burnham Overy, had said to Holly, look, come and use the sail loft as your repair base. We want it to become a proper sail loft again. And at the time, Holly was only 16, 17 and didn't want to commit to taking on the sail loft. So I said, look, we'll share it. You can do your sail repairs at one end and I'll do the bags at the other. And so that's how we've been working for the last year. So we share the sail loft. So it's Newport sails. So Holly does the sail repairs, and if the sails are too far gone, I get to recycle them and turn them into wonky bags.
What a fantastic arrangement. I love it.
Fantastic, but we do have to ask our customers when they drop sails off to make sure they're very clearly labelled, because our greatest fear is that one day I will
you might recycle something that was supposed to be repaired. Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's your main sail back. Why has it got a square hole in the middle? Oh, this is the bag that goes with it. Yes, so that hasn't happened yet.
So tell me a bit more about kind of what it is that grabs you about Branxton State Harbour, Burnham Overy Harbour, and this part of the beautiful world. What is it that grabs you?
This corner of the world is just so special. I moved here when I was 1, and I have a huge association with the whole of the UK coastline. I've sailed all around the UK, and actually North Norfolk is just very special. It's wild. It's ever changing. The landscape is very different between each of the harbours. Brancaster and Burnham Overy are very salt marsh dominated and a very remote feeling, which is just wonderful. And it's full of nature, it's full of birds, there's fantastic wildlife. You get otters, you get the seals, and I do a lot of sea swimming as well as sailing and kayaking. And just to be actually swimming amongst the creeks at bird level is just the most magical thing that you can do. So you swim through the creeks and you feel like you become part of nature, you become part of the landscape. That's very, very special. And like I say, it's always changing. My sewing room looks out over the marshes, and every time I look up, there's something different going on. The tide might just be creeping in, and some days it covers the whole of the marshes and the whole landscape just becomes water. Other days they're smaller tides, and you've got the pink sea thrift coming through at the moment. So the salt marshes are going to turn this amazing shade of pink shortly, and it's just beautiful, whatever the weather, whether there's a sea fret coming in and covering everything, just gives you this complete connection with the world, and just makes you feel very humble to be part of this environment, really. And that's why we have to look after it. And that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about recycling. Yeah, everything needs to be new, but it doesn't need to be new. It needs to be newly created out of old things.
The charm of the place just gets under your skin, and you can't really forget it once you've discovered it. It's just fabulous. And
some of the biggest beaches that I've ever encountered. And I remember when I was much younger, I travelled all around Australia living in a camper van and just spent most of the year living on beaches. And each time you'd rock up somewhere, there was always some local Australian person. They'd be going, "Oh, you live in the UK. I bet you don't have beaches like this in the UK." And then I'd pull out a picture of Brancaster Beach or Holcombe Beach and go, "Look, these are our beaches." And then go, Really? You have them in the UK? It's like, yes.
I still think the beach on the other side of Scolthead Island is one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen
Tell
in my
everybody
entire
about it,
life.
Jason. It's awful. It's awful. It's a terrible beach. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. Don't give our secrets away.
The ferry guy might disagree with you, but yeah. Although I think although he loves running the ferry, I'm sure he also secretly doesn't want to take anybody out there. So it's kind of a mixed blessing, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's the most magical place. When on a bank holiday, you look back at the beaches and everywhere is just full of little black dots of people, and you can see them all sitting on top of each other almost. And then you're sitting out on Scolthead Island on the back of the island, and it's just you out there, and it's just wonderful and so special. But you do have to be very wary of the tides, because actually to go to those sort of beaches, you do need to know what's going on. And that's when we get the tourists and the holiday makers who don't understand the tides, who walk out to these beaches, and then the Coast Guard is on hand to go and rescue them and pick them back up when they get cut off by the tide.
Well, thank you so much. It's lovely to have you on the podcast. I don't know why we haven't invited you on before, but there you go. We look forward to seeing you in the pop-ups in August, and keep making fabulous wonky bags.
We will indeed. Thank you very much, Jason. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
And enjoy that sunshine.
No, we need to go and have a beer soon in the sunshine.
I think that sounds like a marvellous idea. Thanks again for listening to our little slice of North Norfolk life. If you enjoyed the listen, then please do subscribe to the podcast, which is completely free on any good podcast app or directory. And a positive review would really help too. We now have a back catalogue of many episodes, including our Albums of the Year choices and many interesting voices from this beautiful part of the world. Thanks again. Have a great summer.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, fistful of sandfire, sea, lavender, sea.